ground zero, and in the diaspora, of course, ground one is included in the diaspora. Thank you for joining me here today. It is going to be a very, very exciting broadcast, very, very informative broadcast with a very, very exciting panel also. Please go ahead, for those of you joining by way of Facebook, to hit your share button. Go ahead, hit your share button for those of you joining by way of Facebook. Quite a number of things that I bring to you today, and I am not going to waste any time. I am not going to waste any time. So please go ahead and quickly hit that share button. I know the numbers are I've already jumped to over 400 already, but again, I am not going to take so much time. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to bring you straight away my monologue, and then after the monologue, we will discuss the issues. The president of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel MASSACRE, will be joining me later in the second part of the broadcast. Ntumfo and Bo Herbert will be joining the broadcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be discussing the KUMBA killings, the saga, the updates over there. I will bring you some details you do not know. Do you know that one other school was attacked or was about to be attacked last Monday? That is October the 26th in KUMBA. I will bring you that information. We will also be discussing the conference held last week and through the weekend by the so-called Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. We are going to break down certain things that were discussed, the people who were there, what they said, where they are heading to. It is very, very important that we bring you this piece of education so that Ambazonians know exactly who is doing what, who is doing the right thing. So please, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I bring to you today. And of course, more. I see the numbers are jumping on the screen. Please hit your share button while I get back to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thanks for staying put in there. I will not waste any time. I won't waste any time bringing you this presentation for the day. I am here referring to the monologue. The monologue always lays out the subject of discussion. The subject of a discussion can be informational, can be in the form of analysis, but it lays down the subject of discussion for the day. And so I would like you to stay put, take your time, and ladies and gentlemen, and listen to this monologue that I bring to you. This monologue has to do with updates from KUMBA, things that have taken place since last week after the massacre of those students in KUMBA. Fellow Ambazonians, the struggle is on good footing. Again, I can say that the struggle is on good footing. There is pure desperation in Yaoundé. The colonial regime is feeling the highest pinch of frustration after their many schemes to stop the struggle crumble one after another. like a house of cards. KUMBA being the main economic breadwinner in main commercial city in all of Amazonia, they thought to end, La République du Cameroon thought to end the economic drain and strangulation on their economy by getting rid of ghost towns in KUMBA by all means possible. The first plot was to get their soldiers to kill our children, like in the case of Mother Francisca's school murders. They failed. They have since tried forcefully to apportion the blame on our restoration fighters, also to no avail. You saw Paul Atanganji desperately trying to pin the massacres on the Ambazonia Restoration Forces during his KUMBA visit, in which a courageous woman, victim of the massacre, stood up to his face and challenged him. We also saw the colonial governor in Boya trying to manipulate our women and our mothers to accepting that the Ambazonia Restoration Forces carried out the killings. But again, to his chagrin, the woman defiantly told the colonial governor that the Ambazonia Restoration Forces did not carry out the killings. This is another story that many of you may not have heard since the Mother Francisca school murders. Another school came under La République du Cameroon military attack in same Fiango KUMBA. This time it was St. Francis College. This is what we have learned. Last Monday, October the 26th, at about 8 p.m., uniformed men loaded with guns went to St. Francis College, Fiango KUMBA, knocked at the gate, and demanded access into the school compound from the security guy manning the gate. The security guy mustered enough courage, and told them that you couldn't allow them into the school compound. But when they insisted that they must go in, the security man went and informed one of the reverend fathers who was in the campus. The reverend father came and questioned them, demanding to know how or to know why they were at the school at that late hour. The soldiers responded that they needed to guard the students in the school. The Reverend Father couldn't wrap his mind round about the whole thing, and so told them that the school authorities should have been informed before their coming, and so proceeded to turn down their demands and reminded them that God is looking over the students. At this moment, the terrorist soldiers got visibly upset, and a fracas ensued as the Turks insisted they must enter the school. Some of them attempted to scale over the fence into the school. Others tried to force the gate open. At this moment, the Bishop of KUMBA was called in to the scene. The bishop too was very, very blunt to the colonial soldiers, telling them their service wasn't needed at the school, that is St. Francis College, KUMBA. After everything, the Reverend Father went back into the school, gathered all the students to a night vigil, and they prayed until breaking Tuesday morning, the 27th. But for the tenacity of the security and the intervention of the Reverend Father and Bishop of KUMBA, who knows what could have happened again when a military supposedly out to guard students comes with such a show of force. Ladies and gentlemen, came with such show of force to the extent Hold it, ladies and gentlemen, I got to stop this first. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. All right. They came with such show of force to the extent of trying to jump over the fence into the school. Yesterday, Sunday, heavily armed La République du Cameroon military escorted this deserter, a young man whose name I won't honor by mentioning here, to the streets of KUMBA. They paraded KUMBA with a message to the effect that everybody in KUMBA should defy Monday ghost towns. They retreated with the hope of seeing life return to KUMBA today, Monday. To their disappointment, KUMBA, ladies and gentlemen, witnessed ghost town just like in any other day, today, Monday, November the 2nd. But one thing is sure, they say you can fool some people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all of the times. From the northern zone to the southern zone, our women and mothers have sent an unequivocal message to La République du Cameroon. And the message is that they stand for Ambazonia. They will die for Ambazonia. And that no amount of bribery will get them to renege on the resolve. In Bamenda, L'Afrique tried to get our mothers, our women, to sing a foreign anthem, a colonial anthem, before you could address them. The woman told him to hell with his anthem. The woman chose Ambazonia over L'Afrique's message. In KUMBA, and in Boya, the woman told Bernard Okalia his military killed their children and they refused to buy his concoction that their own children killed the children in KUMBA. A success in the anti-ghost town campaign carried out in KUMBA yesterday was meant to test the ground, to see if support for Ambazonia is finally shifting or not. But that one too also failed. We saw that KUMBA was sealed today. The streets of KUMBA were deadly grounded today. Nambere was nowhere to be found, or leading businesses to open and having shops open. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all that they have been trying to achieve, to stop support for the struggle and to end ghost towns, particularly in the city of KUMBA. How do you explain that they kill our children and their corpses are still lying in the mortuary? And they are out there intimidating and manipulating a mourning population to go out and just do business as usual, especially on a day that is very, very sacred to them. If La République du Cameroon hasn't gotten the message out of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell them what the message is. You are not going to coerce Ambazonians to surrender, not in KUMBA, not anywhere in Ambazonia. As you kill our children and family members, and as you burn down our towns as you did in Ekata yesterday, our determination, our resolve, the determination of our people to take this war to the expected end can only increase. After all, what else do you expect us to lose or to fear after you already have killed over 15,000? We ask you to just keep on killing, please. There will always be the last man standing. And until you can do away with the last man, don't think for a moment that you have won. We are ambitious for nothing, and I mean nothing, but for a free and totally free and independent Southern Cameroons. You can buy some of us, as you are in the habit of doing, and you can divide and infiltrate our ranks, as you are equally doing. You can convene peace conferences everywhere in the diaspora, as you are trying to do. Even if you buy and infiltrate all of our ranks, let me assure you, La République du Cameroon, that there will always remain a remnant in Ambazonia. Those who remain uncorrupted and standing uncompromised for this struggle for Ambazonia. They surely will be in the minority, but stand, they will stand. You can trust my words. That remnant will not blink. They will never blink. Fellow Ambazonians, why they continue their schemes in KUMBA? The saga of the killed Mother Francisca students continues. La République du Cameroon colonial authorities in KUMBA continue to hold meetings after meetings, trying to figure out how they will conduct the burials of the children. Parents of the killed students were picked up today, Monday, taken to the colonial SDO office in KUMBA in the presence of Paul Atanganji. Atanganji was brought back to town again today, Monday, after criticism for coming to KUMBA last week and leaving without paying a visit to the mortuary to see the remains of those children. So he was in KUMBA today. Paul Atanganji was in KUMBA again today. The bereaved parents were brought in military trucks. And finally, after severe resistance from the parents for the government not to dare mass bury their children, the colonial administrators finally caved into the pressure from the demands of the parents that the remains be handed over to them for proper burial. The colonial authorities tried to bribe the families, offering each family the sum of 500,000 francs CFA, but the families turned it down, demanding for nothing but the remains of their children. As it stands, we have been informed that the government has organized a public prayer ceremony at the KUMBA Amusement Park on Thursday. The families are expected to show up there at KUMBA Amusement Park at 8 a.m. on Thursday. And after prayers, each family will be given an ambulance with a dead child inside. And the ambulance will be accompanied by the military, who upon arrival at the residence of the family must bury the remains before they leave the compound. In the meantime, we have also learned that the mistress of the Mother Francisca School, who has been in detention since the day of the killings, with teachers and the husband, were only released today, Monday, November 2nd, along with the teachers who were abducted with her. All of these remain very, very unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. Ambazonians are determined to give these students, martyrs of our independent struggle, the honor they deserve. We shall never live to honor. We shall always live to honor them. And for this, I wish to announce here that the Ambazonia Coalition Team, ARC, has declared November the 24th a national day of remembrance for those students and all others, including those killed in Bali Junction yesterday. Therefore, on November the 24th, all of Ambazonia is expected to come out, like on September 22nd, 2017, with peace plans to remember these martyrs and heroes of our struggle. Now, to another subject, that of the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations conference that took place a few days ago. I think it ended yesterday. It is very, very important that Ambazonians begin to learn the differences between ARC, which is Ambazonia Coalition Team, and CDN, which is the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations, as they call it. It is very, very critical that Ambazonians know exactly what each of this group is doing and what it stands for. The similarities in names can be a subject of confusion, but how they each operate and who is behind what should be subjects of concern to Ambazonians. And the only way you find out is by inquisition into what each of these groups is doing. But every Ambazonian, and I mean the overwhelming majority of us fighting for total independence, should be particularly concerned with the kind of meeting we watch over the last few days, organized by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations. For example, from the surface, the idea that every Tom and Dick from every leaning group spoke at that conference was quite interesting, was quite good from the surface. The Federalists, the Unitary One Cameroon people, the Ambazonians or independent leaning groups or people were all brought in there, right? They were all brought in there and it looked good. As politically correct as it looked, the whole thing raises lots of unanswered questions, ladies and gentlemen. First, what is CDN? What is it all about? What is its direction and focus? Or it just doesn't have any? If after 4 years, a group supposedly fighting for the Southern Cameroons the Coalition for Dialogue, cannot choose sides, then that group isn't serious yet. If after 4 years, a group that wants independence for us is still bringing and mixing all types of people together in the name of solution seeking, then they are not yet serious. What do they really expect from Dr. Simon Monzu to say that we don't know? From John Frundi and others, what did they equally expect from Augustine Ndangam, from Cho Ayaba, from Ba Akuro that we don't know? What do they expect from them? So saying that this group really has no focus and direction, what should be the position they come out of that conference with? A position for independence or for one Cameroon? Which direction do they take? A support of the Monzus or a support of the Ayaba's position? The Coalition for Dialogue, ladies and gentlemen, is a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. They have told me in particular before that they are neutral, a neutral group. But their recent polling just doesn't portray them as a neutral group. And by the way, how can anyone claim neutrality at a time their people are being slaughtered like chickens? How is that possible? It is not neutrality. It is chickening. It is positioning and it is grandstanding. And you know what? The word you hear from their mouths all the time is peace, peace. What peace? Of course, the peace that restores one Cameroon, one and indivisible Cameroon. Again, that is established in their recent polling. They are out there brainwashing people, brainwashing Ambazonians, brainwashing you and cajoling you to thinking, wow, I love what these guys are doing. I love the result of their polling. It says 86% of Ambazonians want independence. That's what their poll says. Yes, the polling says so. But that is not the interpretation you hear from them. Ladies and gentlemen, get this. They say the result of the polling means Southern Cameroonians want greater autonomy. Greater autonomy. Think about this. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen, and not be deceived. Does greater autonomy mean the same thing as total independence? Does it mean the same thing? Why can't they put it exactly the same way their poll says? Their poll says 86% want independence. Why do we need some autonomy, but not all of our autonomy? What they have done is look for a reason to go back to their sponsors, La République du Cameroon agent sponsors, and tell them Ambazonians just want some level of autonomy, not necessarily independence. That's what they want to go back and tell their sponsors. This is what is in the cooking, ladies and gentlemen. Be aware of this so-called coalition for dialogue. And they have also said that in their poll, Ambazonia doesn't want the Swiss mediation, that all they want is a United Nations mediation. Let me ask all of you listening to the sound of my voice, where in all the independent struggles of the world have any of you seen the United Nations negotiating or mediating independence? Where have you seen that? It doesn't happen. The United Nations uses proxies like the Swiss, and they put their support behind it, just as they have done with the Swiss initiative. That's what the United Nations does. Let's not allow ourselves to be fooled again like in the days of Foncha. We are at that moment again. If we miss our sovereignty this time, if we allow opportunities to sell us back to La République du Cameroun for their own personal interests, we will never again have this moment to fight. Let the coalition for dialogue and negotiation be told they don't represent the overwhelming majority. They don't represent the overwhelming majority of Ambazonians. And that is exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen. And that is my monologue to you today. I am joined, ladies and gentlemen, by Dr. Samuel Ekomesako, the president, of course, of the Ambazonia interim government. He is coming in here to join me to weigh in on this idea that Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians, really do not want the Swiss to mediate. They just want the United Nations. Do you believe that? Does Ground Zero believe that? So they think that all of us who have been fighting for the Swiss to come in and do something, we are jokers? We are not serious? All right, I am joined by the President. Mr. President, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Chris. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you had a wonderful weekend out there in spite of all the pressure out there with what we find out there, the coalition for dialogue and negotiation. Now, let me make it very clear, ladies and gentlemen, the interim government and the ACT, Ambazonia coalition team, were all invited to that coalition dialogue thing conference. But we turned down the invitation knowing that they have not endorsed the Swiss initiative. In fact, they are a distraction to the Swiss initiative because that thing came up immediately the moment we announced the Swiss initiative, and they came up with an alternative. Now realize this, fellow Ambazonians. Every time we come up with something, La Republic always come up with a copycat for distraction purposes. We came up with the idea of negotiations. They put up their fake so-called grand national dialogue. Yes. We formed the interim government. They created a fake interim government and they have it behind bars. We come up with the Swiss initiative. They come up with the so-called coalition for dialogue and negotiation. This is what La Republic is doing, and they know how to do it. Unfortunately, they use our own people to do it. But I am praying that we take this to the end, so that by the end, at the end of the day, history tells us who was on the right side. Mr. President, so please, Ambazonians don't want the Swiss initiative. Is that what you are hearing from Ambazonians, sir?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, what is going on now is that there is a process which leads to eventual negotiation between the two sides, Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, and La République du Cameroon. What we have is a UN-endorsed process. We have a UN-endorsed process, which we call the Swiss process. It's endorsed by the UN. And it is led by an independent, neutral party. So, if Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, if we want justice, if we want fairness, who do we want to be a mediator? Do we want a neutral, independent party that brings the two sides together? Or we want a party that is not neutral enough? Now, the so-called survey is advocating for a UN-mediated process. What we have is a UN-endorsed process in the hands of a neutral party, the Swiss. So they are saying that we don't want a neutral party, that's the Swiss. We don't want a process that is endorsed by the UN and is carried out by a neutral party. We want a process that is carried out by the United Nations itself. That's ignorance. That is tricky, because how neutral has the UN been in this conflict? How neutral? Because when we talk of the UN, we are talking of the French in the Security Council. How neutral is a UN-mediated process going to be, as compared to a UN-endorsed process in the hands of an independent, neutral party like the Swedes? So there is a game being played here, because the other side is desperate to kill any process that is going to be fair, that is going to be neutral, because they want to engineer any process that will keep them in the helm, and that means the French or La République. And I see those people who make such surveys as facilitators of a one Cameroon process.
Now, Mr. President, what do you make of the polling that says 86% of Ambazonians want independence? But then, in their own words, and I like to quote them, they say they want a greater, in quote, greater degree of autonomy. What is it? I like you to clarify our people, maybe in your own words. Please give us the difference between total independence and greater autonomy. Maybe I got it wrong.
Well, they even squeeze their figures to even give the Federalists some numbers when they said 86% were independent. That is the fact they could not twist. But you know, data has to be interpreted, and that's where you know the heart of the one in the survey. It is in their intention to project the autonomy instead of independence, because independence is a form of autonomy, but autonomy, not every kind of autonomy is independence. So they intended to project autonomy, and you can see that in their interpretation of independence. But they should know that we are smarter this time. One Cameroon agents and facilitators should know that we are smarter this time. Even my little boys and girls on the street, and those who are holding the fort in the trenches, they are smarter than this. We can no longer be deceived. When the Amazonians say we have restored our independence, it means we restored something that existed. So we are not going to ask for some people to do us a survey where they are, in fact, people that have nothing to do with Amazonia, like La Republique citizens, to do a survey, and their thing says that the majority of them were La Republique. They did a survey to tell us that we have said we want independence, and that independence, by their interpretation, means autonomy. That's nonsense. We say we want independence. We are not fighting for some autonomy. If you are fighting for some kind of autonomy, you don't need a flag. If you are fighting for some kind of autonomy, you don't need a president. If you are fighting for some kind of autonomy which is not independent, you don't need an anthem. If you are fighting for some kind of independence, you don't take your destiny in your hands. What we have done. So they are struggling by all means to kill this peace process, to generate a phony a coalition that represents nobody, and then engineer a process that with a foreseeable outcome of one Cameroon. That's why I call them one Cameroon facilitators. That's what they do. There is no such thing as as they're trying to put right now.
So it is very, very important that Ambazonians know what the game that this so-called coalition for dialogue and negotiation is trying to play here. Ambazonians, let us be smart. Let us be smart. Very, very, very smart. Because what I see happening is the coalition for dialogue and negotiation, we don't know who their sponsors are. They want you and me to believe that they are collecting money from some donors, some NGOs, from the members of the public. Members of the public are not giving them any money. They are collecting money from organizations, from groups. And the question is, which are those groups? Which groups are giving them the money? Could there be groups that are being sponsored? You know, the way that lobbying works, ladies and gentlemen, here in the USA is that you want to give money to a group of your choice. All you may want to do is you get the country you are lobbying for, put money into your account. You will now remove money in your account, give it out as a donation to a group that is out fronting for the country you are lobbying for. And that is why we question who is sponsoring the coalition for dialogue. We know that Ambazonians are not you out there, not you watching at me, listening to me. You have not given them the money. Who is behind them? Is it possible that the people, the organizations giving the money are French Cameroon lobbyists? We're going to determine that. But Mr. President, I'd like you to also look at this. The Coalition for Dialogue organizes this, conference, and they bring in every Tom and Dick, whether they are unitarilists. They bring in Dr. Simon Monzu, an avowed federalist, unrepentant federalist that we know. They bring in John Frundi, an unrepentant one Cameroon, one and indivisible Cameroonian that we know. They bring in Augustin Dangam, an avowed independentist that we know. They bring in Akuro, they bring in Ayaba, they bring in everybody from every leaning, I do not know. If I may ask you, Mr. President, because I know you've organized conferences like this one, how do you then, with everybody sitting on table, arrive at a resolution? Whose position do you forward to your sponsors?
You know, this is a conference whose resolutions were cooked up before the conference. It was meant to project something. The people who came there was just a facade. They did not participate in any of these things. One thing they emphasize is the dialogue, right? They hide the N at the end, coalition for dialogue and negotiation. Because if they brought negotiation in front, the question you will ask them is, who is negotiating with who here? Who are you people that are going to be negotiating? So they talk about dialogue. And they hide negotiation, coalition for dialogue and negotiation, because dialogue leads to negotiation. So this is completely evil. That means for me, it does not make sense. It is total nonsense, because we have been dialoguing among ourselves forever and ever. AAC1, AAC2, from SCACUF to the interim government, to all the conferences we have been holding, we have been dialoguing among ourselves. So to say you are creating a coalition for dialogue in order to know what we want to do after 4 years into this war, fighting for our sovereignty restored, it doesn't make sense. So the real intention here is to influence the outcome of the eventual negotiation. Because when you bring people to come and talk, it means you want their opinion to count. So they want to create a medley of everybody and nobody, every opinion and no opinion, just to be able to sell their prepared resolutions that they had already crafted, so that they can use this platform to sell those resolutions to the world. And the idea is to persuade the international community that this one Cameroon is still possible. We are all able to talk to ourselves. We are still within the reach of a one Cameroon. A greater autonomy is still possible. That's why they bring people like Cohen. That's why they bring all those people who have participated in the Grand National Dialogue came again, and they participated. Then at the end, they water down the desire for independence in a fake survey, and they call it the desire for greater autonomy. That's exactly the one thing they wanted to sell. And the other thing they wanted to sell was to inform the world forcefully that Amazonians don't want a separate neutral mediator in this conflict. They want a mediator like the United Nations, where the French and Cameroon are very, very much in the helm. This is the kind of mediators they want, because that is what whoever is sponsoring this coalition has assigned them to accomplish. They must kill the Swiss process, and they must bring in the United Nations, where La République at least has a handle, and where the French is in charge with all the veto power and all the influence of the members to control the narrative and control the direction. That is what the La République is ready for dialogue, but I perceive they want to get to a dialogue that they can already determine the outcome before they enter into the hall.
Yeah, I think you could have said it better. I'd like you to look at one other aspect of that. Let's go back to the Swiss first. I'd like you to look at your camera and tell Ambazonians, because I know there has been a concerted campaign that you know to frustrate and to give the impression to Ground Zero that the Swiss thing doesn't really exist. You know, a few days ago, one of these irrelevant activists there cut my voices and cut my voice and joined it together to send out the message that, oh, these guys have always known that the Swiss are sponsored by La République du Cameroon, and they lied, or they are lying to Ambazonians. I'd like you to look at your camera there, speak to Ambazonians, assure Ambazonians what you know of the Swiss initiative. Is it ongoing? Is it there? Please.
Okay. Fellow Ambazonians, as I said, we are a crop of smart people, some of the smartest in the world. And that's why the tricks that worked in 1961 will not work this time. If La République paid to sponsor a process, and that process is working, we are on the table, right? Why are they not with us on the table? How can you pay to sponsor a process? Because you have probably compromised those that are coming to the table. And then you are scared of the table. Who believe, even a blind man will know that at least here in the United States, there is still the sun out there, not yet dark. So those are very cheap lies that it takes a moron to believe. We are not on the table. The process is not alive because La République is on the table. The process is alive because La République has committed to be on the table. That's it. If the day La République will cease to commit to be on the table, the Swiss ceases to be a mediator. Because a mediator is one who is bringing two willing parties together to dialogue and negotiate. If one party ceases to be willing, if one party withdraws its commitment, from that day you cease to be a mediator. So to say that Swiss mediator does not exist is nonsense. They are mediators, they are not negotiators. And our people sometimes confuse because we don't understand these things. We don't understand the meaning differences. The Swedes remain mediators as long as the two sides are committed to be their mediators, their trusted mediators, to work out the process that will lead to negotiation. The process is alive, and La République is because the pressure to get to the table, at least to start some kind of dialogue, is with legitimate dialogue with us, or genuine dialogue, is so much. But the hope and wish that the Swiss process dies, so that another process can really have a handle. Here they have no handle over the Swiss, and that's the truth. Because we are there as Ambazonian coalition, we are for independence. Yes, we have not been contaminated by all the mundus and the fundis and all the unknowns mixed in our jumbled in our mix called so-called coalition. No, they know who we are, from the interim government, from Maurice, APLM to SCAM to SCAPO. They know who we are. Those are the people there, and we are ready to talk about our separation, the terms of our separation, with a mediator that's a neutral party, neutral. Because without neutrality, you are not a trusted mediator. And that is what we have not found any reason to doubt the Swiss for being a trusted mediator in this conflict. The only day they will cease to be a Swiss process is if La République withdraws. And if La République want to withdraw, let them go ahead and withdraw, and let the world know. They have made many statements. Let them make a statement withdrawing from the process. Then we know the Swiss process is dead. But because because the street process is not there. They can only try to kill it. You try to kill a process that is alive. You don't kill a dead man. Until they kill it, they cannot have the chance of engineering a process that will give them the outcome they desire through these agents.
Now, I know one of the questions that is being asked out there is La Republic committed? Have they shown any sign of commitment to the Swiss mediation? What would you say to those asking this question?
Yes, they have shown a sign of commitment because they are still talking to the mediator. We are still having exchanges, total exchanges between the two sides without revealing the details. We are still having exchanges. They are still committed to the process. But as to the timing of the negotiation of the face-to-face, and so on, that is what is being worked out. That is where what we are still expecting. They're committed to the process of mediation by the Swiss. La Republic remains committed. And
That's
if they don't, if what I'm saying is not true, they can make a statement tomorrow. They have a minister of communication that they are not committed to the Swiss process.
That is very important because that is what enablers and detractors out there want the world to believe, that all this mediation thing is a one-sided thing between just between us and the Swiss. So I think Ambazonians have heard it from your own mouth. There is commitment from both sides. Just the first face-to-face hasn't taken place, which we believe it will take place, because I really believe there is no option, isn't it?
Yes, there's no option. It always ends on the table.
Now,
And
before
this is
you
the
go,
only
because I
table
know
we
you
have
have
now.
another engagement out there, before you go, you listen to the monologue and you listen to the information coming from KUMBA. What do you say to the people in KUMBA and to Ambazonians on ground zero in general? This thing, or what La Republique du Cameroon is doing on the ground, is to make sure that ghost towns are dead. Ghost towns are dead. They tried up in Bamenda, restricted movements of motorbikes and taxis, and then launch Operation Clean Bamenda. It didn't work. They went up to KUMBA, they killed school children in the classroom, and they brought in their lackeys yesterday, Sunday, to campaign live, resuming in the city of KUMBA Mondays. Today was a very, very good example. It didn't work. But again, there have been these killings. What do you say to the parents in KUMBA? Again, I learned this morning that they were invited. The parents were each given 500,000 francs CFA after promising the corpses of their children will be released to them on Thursday. However, that they will be accompanied by an ambulance with a military truck. The military truck would have to get there to their compound and immediately bury the children before they leave. Also, we learned this morning that the headmistress for Mother Francisca School and some teachers who were abducted, including their husband, were only released today. Paul Atangenji was back in KUMBA too at this ceremony this morning. So a lot happening. What message would you want to pass down to ground zero, to the women in KUMBA as a whole, Mr. President?
First of all, I want to thank Chairman Onjorika of the Meme County. I want to thank the Chairman Tony of KUMBA local government. I want to thank all the executives for everything you are doing in the background. And I would also like to thank the people of KUMBA. Let me advise you before I advise Ambazonia. let nobody slap you in the face and tune the music for you to dance. If you do, you are a coward. You are a fool. We all know what La Republique has done, because I came here 20 days before the disaster, and I was able to tell you with enough foresight because of what I know about La Republique and the way they want to prosecute this war. And I told you this is what they were going to do, and this is what they are doing right now. They are killing our own. They are massacring us. They think and just hope that somehow by killing us, they will restore normalcy, because they are not looking for peace. Ambazonians, you know what you are looking for. It is our nation. We did not steal it. That's the idea of making a survey to come and ask us whether you want to be you or you want to be somebody else is nonsense. Whether you asking somebody who is already married and declared independent, left his parents, ask him if he wants to be married or not. We are a separate people. What we are fighting for, our fight is not even ghost town, it's not even school, it's not everything. It's for the destiny of our nation. But these are the instruments we have used so far for the fight. We are only defending ourselves because the enemy came against us. Don't allow anybody to force you to humiliation to stop the ghost town, or do that which you have decided not to do, or to stop your protest and force you to live normal as if it is okay. We have suffered like that for close to 60 years. We have been forced to smile when we were actually going to be weeping. We have been forced to sing a song when after they have been slapping us left and right. This time around, we have grown. We have decided. People of Ambazonia, this is our time. Some people are asking, well, let us do something. They are killing so many people. And I asked them, even if we do what is it that we have to do to stop a wicked person from knocking house to house and killing our people? Even if I give, even if we buy machine guns and food, what will stop a wicked regime like Pobia and his bees coming into a village, going into the houses of innocent civilians, seeing people walking on the road and killing them the way they are killing us? Some people make the wrong arguments. Let's do something. What will you do? What will you do to stop somebody who is just a monster? They kill people. See the boys they kill in Bali. Those boys, what did they do? Even if you have to do something, what do you do to stop criminals like that from killing people? The international community must hear this. And if we stop and we pretend that the situation has returned to normal, then this will never be heard again. And that's what La Republique is doing. They're trying to beat us and hold our mouth that we should not talk. We should not demonstrate. We should not have ghost town. We should go back to normal. We should be quiet, because for them quietness is peace. For them quietness is peace. That's nonsense. We will not take it. And I thank you, Ambazonians, because we will not have another chance in our history to take back that which is effectively legally ours. This is our time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It might be painful. They will surely win.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've said it all. This is our time. This is our time. We may never again have another moment like this one. So let's seize upon the time. Let's seize upon the opportunity. Many will compromise out there, but ladies and gentlemen, as I stated in my monologue, the remnant will always be there. The remnant that will refuse to be corrupted, they will always be there. They will stand and they will win. Mr. President, thank you. I know you have another assignment, meeting to rush into. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am being joined right now by Intumfoin Bo Herbert. Intumfoin, it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
The pleasure is mine, my brother.
Thank you. You missed my monologue today, but before you came in, I spoke about, number one, the events still unfolding in KUMBA, the killing saga. The government of La République du Cameroon today offered 500,000 francs to each of the parents of the killed students, and also after much pressure they agreed to allow the parents to go bury their own kids. However, the military must accompany them on Thursday the 26th with a corpse to the bereaved families, and the army must not leave until the children are buried before they leave. That is what is coming out of KUMBA today. And of course, we all saw the footages yesterday coming from KUMBA of this irrelevant deserter roaming the streets of KUMBA under severe military guard, asking people to defy our regular ghost towns and come out today, open their shops and do business. They woke up today and KUMBA was completely sealed. And again, of course, we all know what the message is. The message there is that Ambazonians are not tired of fighting for what belongs to them. But also more importantly, I discussed about this coalition for dialogue and negotiation conference that took place over the weekend. I think it ended yesterday. We have not learned of their resolutions, but essentially it was a conference that brought everybody, every Tom and Dick, no matter your leaning, together. The Frundis, the Munzos, the Akuros, the Yerimas, the Ayabas, and so on and so forth. They brought them in and they had their discussions, but the main question is, and I'd like you to start from here before we go back to the KUMBA thing. The main question is, where does the coalition for dialogue and negotiation stand in this conflict after 4 years? After 4 years. And I've stated that if after 4 years a group is still so undecided and referring to itself as being neutral, and yet they talk about independence for Ambazonia, it is to me like they just don't know where they are. They just don't know what they are doing, because I really don't think at this moment any Ambazonian should be confused as to what they want. And so for a group to come together and bring everybody to the table, my question is in Tumfon. I know you've been talking to people within that group. My question is, so it is all over. The conference is all over. Every Tom and Dick spoke. The CPDM, the unitary people, the federal people, the One Cameroon people, the Ambazonian people, they all spoke. So what is the message at the end of this conference? Please, Ntumfoin.
Thank you very much, Brother Chris. You used one word there, which is a very important word. You said confused. This is the coalition of the confused. These are people who have not understood what's going on. And it would be very sad if it was only the coalition of the confused. But it also happens that this coalition explains everything perfectly for the people of Ambazonia. And I tried to explain it briefly here. What has happened in this revolution is that from time immemorial, when the people who wanted independence for the people of Ambazonia met in Mamfe in 58 and said they wanted independence, there was a coalition that wanted unification with La République du Cameroun. That coalition is not over. This is it. This is it that's just reborn. When our people established themselves in 2017 and said, we have restored our independence, there was a coalition of people who continued to think that we should belong with La République du Cameroun. Here they are. When our people said, we can only be led by free people, there was a coalition that established a government in jail. Here they are. When our people said, when the United Nations, when the European Union, the African Union, the United States, the UK, Canada, when they all come together and support a peace initiative, a negotiation initiative under the Swiss, we should be at the table There was a coalition for the confused that started a coalition of their own. When the people of Ambazonia, after crying for 60 years, finally had the international community say, Switzerland, set a table and bring La République du Cameroon together, there was a coalition of the confused that said, we will crash the process. They are here today. Now, when our people were very clear that we will accept nothing except independence, we had the confused, the Frundis, the Kawalas, the Simon Munzus, who said, hey, we do just want our own thing here so that we can confuse the people of Ambazonia. This is part of a plan from La République du Cameroon. It is just showing its ugly face, but we have been warning our people clearly. So there is no message except to say to the people of Ambazonia, look how much we have confused you. Now, they claim to have made a big survey. Now, if you go back and look at 38% of the number of people they surveyed from ground zero, it means they surveyed fewer people than Kadinatumi. They surveyed even fewer people than the 2 million people who signed the petition in favor of independence. So these people are just confused. You are muted there, Comrade Chris. You are muted. You are muted, Comrade Chris. I didn't hear you there.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think they said they surveyed 3,600 people. That means to say doubled the figures from Kadinatumi, correct?
But if you take 38%, which they say was 38% of the people came from ground zero, it will be under 1,000 people who answered their survey. Now compare that to the survey, the petition that was signed by 2 million people, Ambazonians, and Kadinatumi going out with 1,000 people. So, and you don't look for, when they have told you that someone has cancer, okay, and it has been determined that they have cancer, you don't go out to do additional testing to prove the same cancer. It has been proven that this matter is a matter of recolonization. It needs to be resolved. You don't go out and tell us anew that you are looking for what the problem is. We know the problem from a long time ago. La République knows the problem. The international community recognizes the problem. Now, we have the confused walking around with us and telling us that we should go along with them. Listen to what they say. Take someone like Simon Munzo, Dr. Simon Munzo. His 5-minute speech had the word must. This one must. It had it 6 times. And Simon Munzo went to the extent of saying that what our people were fighting for was to prevent assimilation. No, our people have always been fighting for independence. That is why we walked away from Nigeria. That is why we demanded self-rule. That is why Foncha and the others fought so hard. Munzu should not take their fight down to the ground by trying to say this, and then he says mediation may. They may use mediation, may. But the other one is must. We must drop our weapons. No, Simon Munzo, we will not drop our weapons. Our weapons are there to defend our people, and we will not do it. Now, if you bring together a Simon Munzo, who is a federalist, a Frundi, who is a unionist, a Kawala, who is, another federalist, what are you going to get? You are definitely going to get people.
And I hope that Ambazonians get the point we are trying to make. You bring all these people together, you listen to all of them. So at the end, so what? Which position are you pushing? But in Tom Fund, let me go back to a point that I raised before you came in. They conducted this poll and they said 86% of Ambazonians or Southern Cameroonians, they're all for independence. It is overwhelming 86%. They said they want independence per their polling. However, this is the way they put it out. Their statement is Ambazonians want greater autonomy. I mean, these are exactly their own words. Ambazonians want great, I don't know what you call this. Ambazonians want greater autonomy. Not independence, but greater autonomy, even when their own polling is telling them 86% want independence, outright independence. Please, can you differentiate between total independence and greater autonomy.
Well, greater autonomy, these people are looking for special status. This Coalition for Dialogue Conference was the diaspora version of the Grand National Dialogue. Now, don't forget, for those of you who logged in and checked out this questionnaire, don't forget that there was no provision at all for independence. There was none in the questionnaire. There was provision for independence, but it was for La République du Cameroun. That is what their own question said. So you don't know how they got to the solution where 86 people were asking for independence for Ambazonia, because there was no such question in the questionnaire. Now, the purpose for which they did this was the same purpose which was declared by this coalition when it started coming together in Boston during that conference that was organized in Boston, where they said they were going to crash the Swiss-led process. The purpose was to get to the number which they put out, which they said, you know, Ambazonians, only 6% of Ambazonians support the Swiss-led process. They want a process led by the United Nations. Well, the Swiss-led process is endorsed by the United Nations. It is endorsed by the African Union. It is endorsed by the European Union. It is endorsed by Canada, by the USA, by the UK. Now, if the Coalition for Dialogue had a process, we would join them. If there's anybody with a credible process, we would be party to it. But don't sell Ambazonians a dream. Don't sell them fiction. There is nothing in this coalition. When you have people like Chris Fomunyu, who want to be president of one and indivisible Cameroon, stop looking for Ambazonia in there. There's no Ambazonia in there. When you have someone like Dr. Simon Munzu, you can't be looking for independence. They have been very clear. In fact, if these people had their chance, they would go back right now and they would tear up the independence papers for Eritrea and for South Sudan and for East Timor and for Kosovo. They would just rip the papers off and say you cannot have independence after a country was independent before.
Well, that is absolutely correct. And going back to the people in there, the pushers, all the doctors and the professors who are in there, you are perfectly correct. I know that it was only recently until this conflict broke out that Dr. Fomunyu was prospecting, running for president in La République du Cameroun. And we find all of them in the midst of this. But let me get to the other question, the one of the Swiss initiative. Now, I'm sure you also read from the report, the polling report, that only a small fraction of Ambazonians want the Swiss initiative, that the overwhelming majority wants a United Nations mediation. Where did that ever happen, Tumfoin, where you have the United Nations mediating for independence?
You know, I've asked people in the Coalition for Dialogue, which is really the coalition of the confused, I've asked them to tell me one place where the fight for independence had the United Nations mediating, playing the role of mediator instead of a country. You know, the people of Palestine have never ever accepted the role of the United Nations in mediating the process, for peace in the Middle East. But the United Nations has never changed who the mediator is, because the mediator volunteers themselves. They sign up, and when they get the backing of the international community, they stay on board. The people of East Timor did not believe that Australia could play an independent enough position in support of their process, and they did not believe that the United States would play an independent position, because both the policies of Australia and the United States were in support of Indonesia. So they did not believe that it was going to work. But once the US stepped in there, once Australia stepped in there, they were the ones that stayed there. I have put out a little piece of document and I've said, let them show us just one process that led to independence that did not have all the organizations and the key countries that now have endorsed and support the Swiss-led process. You will not find one, not a single one. And so they can shop around. These are the same people who told Ambazonians that the Germans were going to have a process. They told Ambazonians that the Canadians were going to start a process. They told Ambazonians that the Americans were going to start a process. They told us that the people in Basque Country in Spain were going to have a process. That people were going to come from Denmark and rescue you from this situation. Until today, there's none. There is one process for the people of Ambazonia, and it is the Swiss-led process. And the only purpose, again, people of Ambazonia, be very clear about this. I indicated to you why you had this double-double, but it is only because there was Team Ambazonia created that a coalition for dialogue was created. And the coalition for dialogue has just achieved its main goal. Its main goal was to replicate the Grand National Dialogue in Washington. It is a plan that Nebafontaine came out of La République du Cameroun with. They have been struggling to implement it. When they implemented it the first time, we foiled it by getting in there and telling them, we know what you're trying to do and you're not going to succeed. Now, they just did it right now. And you will see how the scales will fall off of the eyes of those who walked into this trap without understanding that this is what was going on. They will realize that they went in and they were endorsing the Simon Munzos. They were endorsing the Biya position with respect to the one Cameroon that they want.
Now, in terms of, again, going back to the Swiss mediation, when they tried to say Ambazonians are not for it, they're essentially repeating the talking points of those who have said, we have all of us have just been deceiving people out there because the thing was never there. We knew from day one that the Swiss initiative was being sponsored by La République du Cameroun. I would like to ask you the same question I asked Dr. Sako. Can you look at your camera and tell Ambazonians, listen, ignore what you hear out there, what you read out there. The Swiss mediation process is real, and that La République is actually committed.
Well, first, let me say the last part. La République du Cameroun is not committed to the process. They are not, because they are frightened by the process. La République du Cameroun does not want to come to the negotiating table because they know that we are going to hammer them at the negotiating table. They know they have no legal argument. They have no justification in international law to be occupying Ambazonia. That is why they are running away from a real process. Now they are trying to create a fictional process. They have created one with Siseko in jail, which held in the parlor of the Archbishop of Yaoundé. That process does not exist. It leads you back to the same case de départ. It does not take you anywhere at all. So the only process that exists is the Swiss-led process. People of Ambazonia, go back to what happened when we went to Switzerland. When we went there, they told you that the Swiss were paying us. That is a joke. Because if the Swiss were paying us, if La République du Cameroun were paying us, then after they paid, why didn't they collect what they want? Look, there's nobody to be bought here. Anybody who is to be bought is in the coalition of the confused.
Maybe the pay wasn't enough.
Well, it will never be enough. I have said very clearly, if La République du Cameroun has got a few $1 million to give me, let them give me, because there are some self-defense groups that will use that money. I will pass it to them. They will never buy us. There is not money in the world big enough to buy the people of Ambazonia. And there is indeed a process at the table. What did these people say? Now, the people of Ambazonia may want to note something. While they're doing all this, let me just call it cinema in the middle of Washington and around the world.
Please, I will get you back to that, but let me get back to that question because Dr. Sako was here and he stated clearly the La République is committed, may not be very engaged, but is committed for as long as they have not said, hey, we are not part of it. When you say they are not engaged, you are merely saying they are afraid to sit down with us, isn't it?
Absolutely. What I'm saying is that La République du Cameroon, now La République du Cameroon does not need the coalition of the confused to speak on their behalf. The Swiss have been there several times. The last time they were there was only a few months ago. La République du Cameroon welcomes them, talks to them about the Swiss process. They put it forward on their own CRTV, their Laila TV station. Now, if they wanted to say we are not party to this Swiss-led process, La République du Cameroon would have said it ever since. The reason they cannot say it is because the day they say it, the Security Council would decide another course of action. Now, La République du Cameroon is hoping, they are hoping that they will get these confused people to send a message around the world that Ambazonians do not even know what they want. This is the purpose of this coalition for dialogue. They do not even know what they want. They talk about federalism, they talk about decentralization, they talk about 10-state whatever, regionalism, special status. They are all over the map. That is what these people want to communicate. But we know that an overwhelming, closer to 99% of Ambazonians, not the 86% that these people were trying to cook up in a survey, closer to 99% of Ambazonians are for independence and separation. So La République du Cameroon is on the table. They committed to that. They are fleeing the table for a specific reason. Now, if La République du Cameroon was so certain that Team Ambazonia was a walkover, that what they would do at this process, where apparently the Swiss are working for them, they would just come to the table and win the game. But they are running away. They are running away because they know that they have nothing to bring to the table. This is the first time in all of Ambazonia's history that the people of Ambazonia will be facing up against La République du Cameroon one-on-one as equal party. And these people are telling us to go and consider a position by the United Nations. Let me talk about the United Nations. Everybody knows how the United Nations works, okay? Anything that has to do with world peace will be decided at the Security Council. Who sits at the Security Council? The French sit with veto power. Now, if you want to know what the French will do, go and check out what the Americans have done when it has come to the peace in the Middle East. They have vetoed the issues with Palestine. That is what the French are waiting for in the Security Council. So when people start telling you that they want the matter before the Security Council, they want it before the United Nations, they want you to take your struggle to its cemetery. That is what they're inviting you to.
That's a very important point. That's a very, very important point, Tumfon, because you put the United Nations in charge. It will never get to the floor of the Security Council, nor even, the subject of independence may even get to that floor, nor of course, talk less of the General Assembly, because the French will veto it. But you go through the mediation, the Swiss way, or any other way that is commendable, the French only come in possibly from behind us.
No, the French don't have a place at the table except as co-partners with La République du Cameroon. But people who keep insisting that this matter needs to go to the United Nations do not know how the world works. They do not know how the United Nations works. They do not know how veto power works. And they do not know especially how veto power has been abused by these powers that are permanent members of the Security Council. So they are begging the people of Ambazonia to finally line up behind an option that takes this whole thing to a cul-de-sac. It takes it to our cemetery, where it will be buried by the French using one veto power. Now, obviously, if the British, who did not want South Sudan to be independent, if the French, if the Americans, who for a long time did not want East Timor to be independent, if that matter had been decided at the Security Council, there would have been a veto. Kosovo is one of the few countries in the world that obtained independence essentially on the basis of the fact that they are one ethnic group. If that particular matter had gone before the Security Council, it would not have passed muster. It would never have been approved because it would have been vetoed. Even on the basis of international law, you cannot claim that you are a people and that you are a country on the basis of ethnicity or one ethnicity. Otherwise, the Hutu and the Tutsis would be given a country of their own ever since. So that essentially worked because it bypassed the Security Council. How do you bypass the Security Council? When they tell the people of Ambazonia that the United Nations has endorsed this process, what will happen in actual implementation of the Swiss-led process will be that the Security Council will, the Secretary General of the United Nations will appoint a mediator, will appoint an envoy to these talks, like the US will appoint an envoy. Those talks will be carried through the way the ones of South Sudan were carried to in Kenya. And the outcome is then endorsed by all these powers. It does not have to go to the Security Council. The Security Council gives its blessings to what all of these envoys have done. But these people who have promised you everything on earth, they have not delivered on the Canadians, they have not delivered on the Germans, they have not delivered on the Americans, they have not delivered on the Norwegians, they have not delivered on Basque Country. Now they tell you, hey, the United Nations will do it. There is not a single president of the United Nations sitting down and mediating the process of getting a country to be independent. It does not exist.
All right, I think you make the point very succinctly, and Ambazonians, I believe they got it. I believe they got it. Now, let us move over to this KUMBA updates. The ARC Ambazonia coalition team has announced a National Day of Honor. I don't want to call it a National Day of Mourning. We are not mourning. A National Day of Honor on November the 24th. November the 24th, and Ambazonians are expected to show out with their peace plans like as of September 22nd, 2017. Can you throw a little more light on this?
So Team Ambazonia met yesterday, as we meet twice every week, and at yesterday's General Assembly we decided that we were going to put forward a day of honor for the martyrs of Ambazonia. It's not just the kids in KUMBA, as monstrous as that, as horrendous as that massacre was. We want to be able to honor those who were killed in Gabu, those who were killed in Pinyin. We want to go all the way back to Akum Julius. We want to go back to those who were killed in silence, people like the Honorable Albert Mukong, people like Ngomjwa, people like Bernard Fonlon, people like, like Endele going to their graves without achieving what they wanted to achieve for our people. We want to honor all of them. And we are doing this to prove to the international community two things. The first one is that the people of Ambazonia will never let off. It does not matter the number of massacres that La République du Cameroon will perpetuate. It is the responsibility of the international community to stop Mr. Biya. Mr. Biya has proven that he is both incapable and unwilling to stop human rights violations and genocidal violence at grand scale. He has proven that already. So it is the responsibility of the international community to evoke responsibility to protect. We are asking them on this occasion of honoring our martyrs that they should get that to happen. It is on them. We are also proving, point number two, that Mr. Biya and his regime do not care about the people of Ambazonia. There was proper display of that in one incident where the ambassador of colonial Cameroon to Switzerland came out and tossed away, bouquets of flowers and candles that were lit to the memory of these children. He tossed them away because he does not care about them. So all the drama and comedy about a day of mourning was really a day of celebration in La République du Cameroon. It was meant to mock our people. And to close the mocking, they sent one of the biggest traitors, Nambere, to show up in KUMBA and tell the people of KUMBA to their face that me here, a former bandit in town, and now a betrayer in chief, will show up here and stop you from getting to your independence. Nambere needs to know they are now very close to killing him. Nambere's appearance in KUMBA tells the people of Ambazonia very clearly who perpetrated the killings. The killings are being done by people who are taken out of this disarmament center. They are made to commit these crimes on behalf of La République du Cameroon, and La République du Cameroon takes them out when they need to, when they must do so, Just like they did in Gabu. Don't forget, in Gabu, they admitted that they had a militia working with them, that militia came in and they are the ones that, working with the military, committed the crimes. They said they could not lay their hands on the militia. No, we know them. The ones that showed up in KUMBA had to be people who know KUMBA, like Nambere. The ones that came and killed our children. Those are them. For you to commit that crime at 11:30 a.m. in KUMBA, commit a crime with such brazen boldness in broad daylight in the middle of an inhabited area, you can only do it if you know that your cover is perfect. There is nobody else who can do that except the regime. And it's a big shame.
To that point, you have seen the concerted efforts by the colonial administrators both in KUMBA, in Boya, even in Bamenda, trying to put the massacre on the Ambazonia Restoration Forces. I learned that up in Bamenda, Lele Lafrique went up to the women and asked that they sing their colonial anthem before he addresses them. And they all said, over our dead bodies. You go up to the southern zone in KUMBA, you saw the feat displayed in that KUMBA Council Hall by that courageous, brave Amber lady. You saw in Boya those women sitting before Okalia Bernard, and Okalia is trying to coerce them to saying, Amber boys, as they call it, killed their children, and the women said, no, we don't know that. Then yesterday they brought Nambere up to KUMBA and they want him to stop Ghost Town essentially, and today it was a shame on them. What do you read out of this? Doesn't this show resilience, determination? You cannot kill us to own us. Is that not the message we're seeing coming from ground zero?
The people of Ambazonia have been telephoning these messages to La Republique all the time, but the place is too deaf. The people don't hear. The KUMBA market women were very clear when they told them, go and open your market stores on Monday, goes down there, and they said, we will never do it. Now, before that, there were KUMBA women who also came out and said, oh, we saw the SDO, and he was wearing all of these, bulletproofs, and was in an armor car. We need to get our own armor car if we're going to do that. And the people should not just guard us in the market. They should also be able to guard us at home. So the people of Ambazonia have clearly indicated that Mr. Biya is looking to win a war. In fact, Atanganji was in KUMBA telling people that Mr. Biya has won the war. Mr. Atanganji, the people of Ambazonia do not care about the war. We don't want to win war. We are here to win independence for our people. And we will win independence. You can win the war. We don't care. Now, the world has told you, and every independence struggle prior to this one has told you, that the colonizers have never won. You cannot show me one where the colonizers won. So you will not win. You will not win because every single Ambazonian will fight you to the finish. Now, because they cannot win, that's why they try these tricks, where they think, Lele Lafrique thinks that he will get the women and stampede them into singing the anthem of the colonialists, and the women reject it. Okala Bilai thinks that he can get them to point to incriminate Amber boys, and the women reject it. But they always find a Muna, and this time they found Frundi, and Frundi stepped out and said, Amber boys did it. Shame on him. Mr. Frundi has no proof. I mean, luckily he lives in a place where, there's no justice. Otherwise, I mean, look, this is a guy for whom every Southern Cameroonian was ready to lay their lives in 1992. First, to bring him to power, and secondly, to defend his victory.
6 people, you know that you were in Bamenda, 6 people actually laid down their lives for Frundi and his SDF, and others were amputated, including journalists that you know.
I spent 2 months under house arrest with him. When they showed up to arrest people in his compound during the state of emergency, they were not interested in arresting him. They were interested in arresting me because I was giving them hell. Now, if I was going to go to the stupid extent to which Frundi was going, I would say that Frundi killed the 6 children who were killed in 1990, you know. But it tells you the extent to which Frundi has been integrated, assimilated, absorbed, and has now become an enemy of his own people. It tells you the extent.
Well, it's quite unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. I listened to him speak during this coalition for what surrender thing, and it was quite pathetic. I knew long time ago, early in those days, Frundi, if he had taken over power, would be one of the worst dictators that that country ever know. You know, I visited Frundi once. I wanted to interview him. This is what happened. This is what happened. I used to write then for a newspaper called The Analyst. It was owned by Ndajem King Tabo. You may remember him.
I remember.
I went to interview Frundi, and Frundi brought out a copy of The Analyst. And he brought it out. I had a byline on it, and he underlined every single word. Did you write this story? I said, yes. Did you write this one? I said, yes. He said, did you say Frundi is being challenged in his own fief in Bamenda, Wendam, Joya, and so on? I said, yes, sir. That's exactly UNDP. But the point is, I knew from that day, this is a man, you give him power, everybody would have to bow and lick his bottom. That's exactly what I concluded.
Frundi has proven something to the people of La République du Cameroon and the people of Ambazonia. He has proven that it is all about him. For 30 years, it has all been about Frundi. Now, if the guy could hang on to 30 years of an opposition political party, he would have ruled that country from his grave. Now, Mr. Biya may be bad. We have not tried Mr. Frundi. And his statements on Amba boys killing the children tells me, because Mr. Biya has not done it himself, it just tells me that the man may just be a little worse than Mr. Biya. Fortunately, we will not have to find out because the man is gone. Because right now, within the SDF, I have been notified within the SDF that they are working on the faction of SDF members who are joining our independence struggle. And there will be a split within the SDF with members of the SDF who support our independence struggle coming out openly and supporting our struggle. So, Mr. Frundi, it's not going to just be Honorable Wiba. There are going to be people telling you the news. Now, let me talk a bit about some of the stuff that Mr. Frundi forgets so easily. Mr. Frundi forgets that in 1992, this regime accused him of killing Tita Fomukong, and the people of Bamenda defended him. He forgets that in 1992, this regime accused him of killing the Dio in Muyuka, Diongum, and the people of Southern Cameroon defended him. Mr. Frundi forgets that he was accused of attacking and killing Ngafo of Nacho Comprehensive, and the people of Ambazonia defended him. Mr. Frundi forgets that he was accused of burning down villages across the northern zone, and the people of Ambazonia defended him. Mr. Frundi forgets that while he was locked up under house arrest with me, that it is the people of Southern Cameroons who gathered around and said, we will put away that house arresting. We will end state of emergency. It is Takumbang that came out naked to say we will give our own lives that this man may live. Now, Mr. Frundi wants to take children's lives. He wants to go out there and tell people that the only one who deserves to live is Mr. Frundi. The only one who deserves to lead is Mr. Frundi. No, Mr. Frundi, please come on now. Take a break. It's time to go to retirement.
Well, he's not going on any retirement, not anytime soon. Tufan, let's get back to this November 24th. What should Ambazonian expect? What do we expect of people on ground zero for November the 24th?
November the 24th, the people of Ambazonia know how to do it. You did it on the 1st of October 2017. You did it on the 22nd of September 2017. This is defiance. We will honor our dead. We will honor our heroes, whether La République du Cameroun wants it or not. And we will honor them because we want to tell the world that their lives, their blood was not shed in vain. They did not lose their lives in vain. We want to show proper comfort to their families, to tell them that we are united in that fight, that we died with those children, that every one of us who is fighting today, that the children going to school tomorrow do not know if they will come back home. We have said a long time ago that Mr. Biya has already decreed every Ambazonian a dead man walking. And so every Ambazonian must identify themselves with these children who died, going all the way back to Julius Akum at the beginning of this struggle. And we need to come out in our numbers. We need to get the world to know that Ambazonia stays on course with respect to independence, and that the confusion brought about by, all the coalitions for confusion and the betrayals that people like Frundi are doing, that is not going to stop us.
Thank you, Ntumfan. Please stay put in there. Let me open the phone lines. We both take a few questions before we call it a day. Ladies and gentlemen, I will open the phone lines. However, remember to shut down the volume of your set before you call. Before you call, make sure that the volume of your set is turned down so that you can focus just on your phone. Why I am receiving the calls. What do you make of the fact that finally La République du Cameroun is surrendering to pressure? They actually opted to give these women 500,000 francs each to persuade them to allow the government to bury their children. They said, no, we don't need your money. We only want the corpses of our children. Now the government has now decided, yeah, you want the corpses, we will give you the corpses, but the military must accompany you to bury those children before they return to base. What's your take on that?
Well, this is bribes. This government believes that our children's lives is worth 500,000. I am delighted that the parents are not taking the money. They should not. I am also delighted that the parents are not allowing the military to bury their children. They should not. Now, if we know something from the Middle East, from Palestine, if we know something from South Africa, if we know something from the Sharpeville massacre, those children that were killed in KUMBA, that were massacred in KUMBA, they should be given the most honorable burial possible, which means all of KUMBA needs to come out to take those children to their final resting place. And if they are soldiers, so be it. They should carry them triumphantly through the streets, not a hearse. They should absolutely show defiance in the face of La République du Cameroun. If La République du Cameroun wants to kill more people, which they will do, I am afraid they will do, but the people of Ambazonia will win freedom at the price of showing determination, defiance, and resilience. And so, do not back down in the face of these cowards, these monsters. Do not invite the International Diplomatic Corps that's based in Yaoundé to travel to KUMBA to witness what's going on. We will organize, if we know exactly when it is happening, for the international press to provide coverage. We will expose these monsters. The people of KUMBA, the people of Ambazonia, when it comes to the 24th of November, show your love to these families, show your love to these children, and open up and offer your prayers to God for our land and for our people. You're muted. You're muted.
I'm doing good, Secretary.
Okay, yes, we get to the first caller here, Prince J.K. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, Secretary Chris. Thanks a lot. I've been following up the live show, and I want to say big kudos to Comrade Bo. That I really appreciate him for the great job he's doing, educating the people. This is what the people need at this time. This education he has given today is what they need. Because as we all know, La Republic is out there like a wild wolf. And many Ambazonians don't know what is buried in the soil of Ambazonia. Many of them don't know the minerals that we have and what benefits it has to the 8 million, 9 million people of Ambazonia. And La Republic, with all their demonic group which has extorted all these minerals for 50 years, they are out there to keep us in bondage. And with such a wonderful show like what Bo Herbert has put out there, it makes Ambazonians to understand a lot. So Bo Herbert, kudos to you. I really enjoy you and you inspire me today. Thank you very much, Comrade Bo.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
All right, that is great. Let's see who is next on the line. I would like callers from Ground Zero. Callers from Ground Zero. Okay. Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, Secretary Chris.
Yes, good evening, sir. May I know which county you are calling from, please?
Yes, I'm calling from the northern zone, specifically from the Mezam County.
Okay, 1 minute. What is in your mind?
Yes, I appreciate very much what you are doing with our comrade Tumfo and Bo Herbert.
Thank you.
You are actually exposing those who are, in fact, standing as traitors to our revolution. I appreciate you very much. I say God should bless you and you keep on working as you are working with all your determination, with all your power to make us go through. Let me tell you something. You people should not be frightened about what is going on the ground. On Ground Zero, we know what La Republic is all about. Care very less about the conference, care very less about those who are participating. There are people who know them. We know them. It is not something that you people should doubt over there. It's not something that you people should think that will be taken the way you think we are going to be taken. We know them and the Ground Zero know them. And you people have to know that all these guys who are going in for such a conference are guys God have designed them to behave that way so that they should fail in their mission earlier before we truly go to the normal place, which is the streets. So we should understand that by the time they must have exhausted all their effort, La Republic and these guys, we will then get up, God will then bring you people up for us to tackle the verity of what is on the ground. And secondly, you people should not mind of Frundi. Frundi is an account, a cast out. Is somebody who has no grounds. Is somebody who has no way to stay. He has escaped from his own hometown because of his political, differences with the people. He was a bookseller. He was not a politician. He was not even the one who was at the forefront of the creation of SDF. There were the Abel Mukons and many others. So Fundi only exploited the trust they gave him and took that power. And from then, he has been wavering over opinions. He has been bought by CPDM, by La Republique de Cameroon.
All right.
He's been paid.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. We get your opinion, and you are perfectly on point. We know what the old man is trying to do. You have a great evening, sir. All right, let's get to the next caller here. Good. This is Ground Zero. Hello.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Secretary Chris.
Yes.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Mezam County, Northern Zone.
Okay. And what is going on there, sir? You have 1 minute.
Only the CH, the military CH. First of all, I want to say good evening. Congratulations for what you are doing. Good evening, Comrade Bo. Hi to Pronida, your kid sister. We're schoolmates in GH and Bengal High School. So, greetings. We are fine, Secretary Chris, in the sense that we have become very resolute, even in the face of the siege that we are facing in the hands of these terrorists. Like the neighborhood of Alakuma in particular, Alakuma and Bengbe Road, is invaded by terrorists. The people are even in serious harassment. Serious harassment. Alakuma in particular. Today, for example, most soldiers were brought in there to suppress the people, to oppress, to humiliate the people. So that's the situation here. You know that situation in Bamenda generally, but that way it is much more serious.
How was Ghost Town there in Bamenda today?
No, very effective. Ghost Town in Bamenda is always unquestionable. No question about that. Very effective. Good. Fine. So yeah, we are very pleased with what you guys are doing. Like the last caller just said, don't bother about that coalition for dialogue and what. We know them, the moons and so on, we know them, we detest them for what they are. Our worry is how do we unleash enough firepower to compel this demonic regime to go to Switzerland. That's our worry in the ground zero. How do we face them with enough firepower to compare them to Switzerland?
Thank you.
We have no doubt about the Swiss process. Yes, we have no doubt about Swiss. We believe in the Swiss process. We believe in what you guys are doing completely. But how do we compare them to go to Switzerland?
They will get there. They have no choice. They can delay. They can play hide and seek. They will have no choice but to get there. Thank you for the call. Ntufo, you have anything to add there briefly?
Well, just to say to the caller, he said he was my kid sister's classmate. That's very warm. Today's we're celebrating all of our loved ones who have gone. My kid sister, Wen Brunhilda, is one of those we're celebrating today. Please celebrate your loved ones who are gone in Ambazonia, those who died recently in this war, those who died out of illness, and stay as resolute as you say you are, brother. Remember also, this is not a struggle in which we have to take half time. This is not a struggle in which, even when you have a normal week after the ghost town on Monday, you must remember that you're permanently at war, that your people are being killed, even when you're not seeing them being killed, even when it is not a massacre as gruesome as the one from KUMBA, because there are few that come and shock you. But by the time they're finishing with the people in KUMBA, they're killing people in Ekona, in Muyuka, in Mundemba, in Bahali. They're killing on a permanent basis, even if they're not killing around you. So live as you live in a war. Remember, you are a soldier of this revolution, and keep doing your part. Your part may just be telling people, warning people that the soldiers are coming, so that the Amber Boys can take over. That is a big role that you're playing. Your role could just be shoot a video that exposes what has happened. If you see them going down the street, likely to kill people, roll your camera. Those camera images that turn up on social media showing them breaking into people's homes, smashing people's cars, all of those images, we are taking them forward. We are taking them forward to the International Criminal Court, and we will nail them on every one of those images. So shoot them, provide them. Don't think you are wasting your time. You are part of this struggle. You are part of this war.
Right, and Tumfon, let me add to that video point. Please, we need your videos, your footages here at ABC. We need them. When you shoot them, you can use the same number that you find on the screen to send those footages to me on WhatsApp. And this is very, very important. When you are shooting your videos, hold your camera in the landscape,
horizontal.
Not like this, but like this, in a landscape, horizontal. Don't hold it like this to take to video. Hold it like this, because when you hold it like this and video, when we play your footage, it shows up in the entire screen. But if you hold it like this, it's only a little part of the screen that the image will end at. So this is holding it like this to video is very, very important. And please send them to ABC using the number you find on your screen, and we will run them. All right, let me get to the next caller.
One other thing.
Yes?
One other thing, Brother Chris. When you shoot that video, remember to keep people out of the video whom you could implicate.
Right.
Meaning, don't allow them to identify who it is that's filming, where you're, I mean, it's important for you to indicate where you're filming from and on what date you are doing it. When you start off that video, always say, we are here in Bamenda, in Tobu, or we are in Kwen, and the date is the 2nd of November, 2020, and I'm standing here at T Junction, if it is T Junction, and then you swing around and show what's going on. Now, if you don't want your voice, just say where you are, the date, and record the video.
Right. Thank you, Tumfon. All right, let's get to the next caller here. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello, Secretary Chris.
Hello, good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'm calling from Ground 2, Yaoundé, but I'm from Boyo County.
Since when did Yaoundé become ground? Ground for us? You mean the colony? You should say colonial capital, right?
Okay, yeah, that's how I used to call it Ground 2.
All right, that is your own terminology down there. We know it as colonial territory.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Okay. Yeah, I would like to greet the president that just left. And also want to greet my great brother, Tumufo Herbert. We are from the same county. I would like to greet him in the dialect. Secretary Chris, I want to tell you the truth. Whenever I watch ABC, I see a people that are focused. I see people who know their left and right. I see from and they know where they are going to. And with that, when you look the nonsense of the Coalition for Dialogue, I don't know, they shoot their foot all this while. If you just look at the number of people that were watching that nonsense, they were never up to 500. So when they see those signs and they still force themselves into, are they not saying that we have rejected them? And from the way you put things today, you don't just criticize things. You were criticizing and saying, giving out the points why we should not follow them. You are giving out all the possible points negative, just criticizing. And even if a blind man who doesn't see but hears will know that what those guys are doing is a sponsored issue from La République de Cameroon. With that said, Secretary Chris, I would like to come back to Fundi. I would really like to say that I'm a victim of Fundi, of what Fundi did in the 1990s. My father was a polygamist, having 4 wives, and he was a CPTM supporter, and he was so categorical that all his wives must follow CPTM. My mom alone stood and said, no, I won't stand with CPTM. So my decided that, okay, it is either you stay with me and join my CPTM or to Chris. But he finally died. My mom was no more staying with him.
So your dad divorced your wife because your dad divorced your wife because your dad divorced the wife, your mom, because she chose to be a supporter of the SDF.
Exactly, Chris. And finally, before he died in 2006, my mom was living a separate life with us. My dad has abandoned my mom and the children. And when I see what Fundi is doing today, Secretary Chris, that man is a monster. If I see Fundi face to face, he will not like the demon that will come out from me. Because people supported him, but at the final end, he went back to the side that people did not want. Is that a big shame?
Absolutely.
It is really a big shame, Secretary Chris. So what Fundu is doing, when he sits, he should ask himself, am I really doing what I started? Because Fundu has become not only he is a
All right, thank you. Thank you. I think we're having thank you. We're having a lot of problems with your network there, but thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Okay, let me get. I'm hoping to get a caller from the southern zone, from KUMBA in particular. I need a caller from K-Town, please.
And by the way, Yaoundé is not ground two. Yaoundé is a refugee camp. All of our people there are refugees. And, you know, it's true that it's because our people are there in a foreign land that they're refugees, but the town itself is built like a refugee camp. So,
don't find, give me a second here. Hello.
Hello, good evening, and thank you for your hard work. May God bless you and keep you.
Thank you, ma'am. May I know where you're calling from, please?
I'm calling from the United Kingdom.
Okay, thank you for calling. What is in your mind?
What I have in mind, I just want to really say a big thank you to Comrade Bo Herbert for pointing out that Nambere is one of those who carried out the killing in KUMBA. When I watched the video yesterday, I said the same thing to my mom. I said, looking at him physically, the drama he was acting and the way he was dressed, he doesn't look like someone who is still living in Yaoundé. Let's not be surprised that he's been living in KUMBA all this while that he went missing. So the restoration forces in KUMBA should be very careful with whom they interact with, because I'm not sure Nambere still lives in Yaoundé, and he is one of those who carried out the killing in KUMBA. So they should be very, very careful how they interact with people who are close to Nambere. That's my contribution.
Thank you for the contribution. Yours remain safe and strong, ma'am. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Tumfine, I will give you the last word and we'll call it a day, sir.
Yeah, let me try and close with KUMBA. People of Ambazonia, one of the first things we should know is that when we see people like Nambere being used, it is a war crime that La République du Cameroon is committing when they take an Ambazonian fighter, a former Ambazonian fighter, and they use that Ambazonian fighter to take down their own people. It is a war crime. I know La République doesn't care about laws, but very soon they will care a lot when they get to The Hague, and they are getting there very soon. It is also a war crime for La République du Cameroon to make Ambazonian policemen, gendarme officers, and soldiers to fight in Ambazonia, killing their own people. You cannot do it, and they will soon find out before the International Criminal Court. I want to take a moment here to thank the people of God in KUMBA, to thank the people of KUMBA. There's one thing that KUMBA gave me. They gave me education. K-Town gave me my education along with Boya. And I like to tell you, Boya will be our home. We will walk in there without a problem. And the people of K-Town, especially in the southern zone, will show us the way there. They will show us with the courage that we saw from those children. Because those children, they knew the danger that they were facing. Their parents knew the danger. We may never know their courage, but God knows their courage. And we like to thank people like Merinke of Objection fame, who stood up in front of Atanganji Paul, trying to play pastor, to let him know that we don't recognize you among the anointed. You are the devil. Why are you speaking about the word of God? That courage is the courage that the people of Ambazonia need to take. Do not minimize your role in this revolution. Do not, because you may just be the one we are waiting for. If God is speaking to you and asking you to do something on behalf of the people of Ambazonia, go ahead and do it. Glorify God with your own life if you need to be. Remember that we are all in this together. They have always told those of us abroad that we are living comfortably abroad. Yes, our homes may be more comfortable. This country may be more comfortable. But we are going to every extent, including putting our own lives on the line, putting ourselves on the line with the possibility of going to jail, to make sure that the people of Ambazonia have our voices, because their own voices have been shut down. To make sure that the world knows that you are fighting a just cause. We will never let you down. We want our people who have accidentally been taken to jail across the border, deported and renditioned to La République du Cameroon, to be reminded again that we have them at heart and we are fighting for them. Let them not think for one moment that there is a division between those of us who live abroad and those of them who happen to be behind jails. We are ourselves in jail because if I was free, I would come back home. I may not be of the age to fight anymore, but this mouth of mine will fight until it is closed in death. So my people, know that we are solidly behind you. We are united together on the 24th of November. People of Ambazonia, in your millions, tell the world again, number one, that you honor your people who are fallen, that you know that their blood will not go in vain, and remind the world it is their responsibility to stop the carnage in Ambazonia, to stop the genocide. And the third message, remind them that you will never give up on your independence. It does not matter how long it takes. It does not matter how many lives they take.
Thank you. Thank you, Doomfund. Couldn't have said it any better. Thank you for showing up to be with me today. I look forward to having you back, sir.
Thank you very much. And sorry for showing up late on the show.
No, you were just on time, very much on time. Thank you. You have a great evening. All right. Thank you, fellow Ambazonians, for tuning in. We really want to believe that this education we are bringing to you is making a lot of sense and equipping you to stand through every trial that we face during this time of the struggle. The République du Cameroon will continue these attacks, these killings upon you. But remember, the word is no turning back. This is a no-nonsense generation that will not see a repeat of what happened in the days of Foncha. So please, we urge you all, remain very, very strong, very, very strong out there on ground zero. Do not at any time be worried. We know this thing is going on like this, up and down. There are days where you feel like celebrating. There are days your spirit is downcast. We want you to know this is a war of independence, and it will look like this. But the good thing is that perseverance pays. Perseverance pays, and we want you all to persevere out there as we also do our best in the diaspora to make sure that it turns out to be a victory. Before I go, I have this message from somebody from Ground Zero. I think this is from KUMBA. I say, good evening, brethren. Please, if there is a possibility of us having an audio of Secretary Chris' presentation today, we will really appreciate it. Just a few minutes to the broadcast, La République took off light in KUMBA. I can assure you, those of you in KUMBA, I will make sure that that monologue is in audio, and I will get it out there to you today. Before I go, I just want to remind you again of Africa Town Hall, africatownhall.com. africatownhall.com. Many of you have not signed up there to create a page there. Again, remember, Africa Town Hall is where Africans meet to talk about Africa, exclusively about Africa. You can post anything, you can post your business, you can post your wedding photos, your whatever you can post on any social media, you'll be able to post it on Africa Town Hall. Go ahead and you do that. Now, I look forward to coming back to you one of these days. I promise you I will be back. God bless you all. It was a pleasure to be back.
By values, democracy, freedom, respect for the law, and for the dignity of human beings, regardless of their origin, skin color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or political views.
Sexueller Orientierung oder politischer Einstellung.
This photo of Merkel facing Trump at a G7 meeting went viral, seen by many as a perfect illustration of their